Hello and welcome to the MonkMMATics channel. I am your host Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this very video, I'm going to be breaking down how to read all of these crazy numbers, this whole spreadsheet, everything for the Draftking stat sheet. If you are here, I want to thank you for subscribing to my Patreon and becoming a member. It means the world to me. That's where I assume most of you are from. If you are not a member of the Patreon, you are here to try to decipher my game theory video. What the hell is this guy talking about? I really appreciate you as well, but be sure to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/MonkMMATics. And you can get access rather to all of these sheets that I am showing you here. You have full control, 1080p, no more squinting at the screen. It's perfect. So again, if you are here from Patreon, I really appreciate it, guys, and I am going to teach you all how to read my DFS stat sheet. So without further ado, let's get into it. As soon as you click the link, this is what you are going to see up here. Patreon, DFS stats, view only. So you obviously cannot make changes, but you do have total control and view over everything, with your own eyes. Can't click on shit though, I tell you that much. Either way, go down to the bottom here, right behind my back / next to my shoulders, and you will see all these tabs. These are each and every fight coming up on the upcoming card here. And if you click on the box here, all sheets with the 3 lines on it, you can choose your sheets that way. So we're going to stick up here. We'll do Derek Lewis, and Tai Tuivasa. If you notice, the default is 100%. I got a bunch of, empty space right here. That's annoying to look at. Just go down to the right corner, click this plus next to the 100%, click it twice, take it up to 120. Bam, you are good to go. Speaking of Bam, we got Bam Bam here to look at, going up against Derek Lewis. Now, obviously, it's a left and right thing. Derek Lewis is on the left, Tai Tuivasa is on the right. Right in the middle here is the separation point. It tells you how many fights are on the card, 15 fights. How many fighters are not ranked? Now, that has nothing to do with UFC ranks. This is my rankings. Each of these fighters is ranked out of all the other fighters on the card, not by weight class. So there are 15 fights, which means 30 fighters. 10 of those fighters either have less than 3 UFC fights. That's what makes them not ranked. So I have 10 fighters that are unranked. So the lowest rank you will see here, for instance, Derek Lewis, raw DraftKings points per minute, 20. So that is the lowest rank you will see this week. That will change. And then the blue box heavyweight, that just tells you what weight class the fight is happening at. So if you look at Whitaker Adesanya, that changes to middleweight. Cannonier Brunson, middleweight. Phillips Rojo, bantamweight. You get the idea. So on the left side, as I said, is fighter A. On the right side, fighter B. At the top here, I have all of their measurables, their professional UFC record, how their fights ended as far as pro career. Right under that, basic UFC statistics, where the fighters train out of according to Tapology, in some cases SureDog if I have to go there. Swoop Index is just a measurement that I use. It's basically, does your fighter whoop ass or not generally. This is a career number. I also have them broken down by fight. 0 is a draw. Negative number means you're kind of losing fights. You're not doing too well as an ass whoop index. And then positive number is very good. Power index, you want this to be as high as possible. This is how many times you knock down fighters per significant strike landed. Chindex is another measurable I made up that is the exact opposite of power index. You want this to be 0. A 0 Chindex is a perfect Chindex, meaning you've never been knocked down. Next, basic DraftKings data. I tell you how many times they've made the optimal lineup since January 1st, 2021. I have all salary information that goes back until that date. Right before that, DraftKings changed their scoring, so everything's off, and I'm only going with current scoring. So, salary, I rank the salaries, how high they are. Score weight, that just is a number, how your fighter usually scores compared to the weight class. In this case, I believe it's compared to the rest of the card. But then the rest, some of these are pretty self-explanatory. Total DraftKings points per fight. DKP is DraftKings points. Raw DKP RDKP is DraftKings points with all bonus points taken out. So basically a pace or a work rate. In fact, I'm going to change this, our raw DraftKings points per minute, to pace. It's just a bit, for brevity's sake. DraftKings points per win, loss, how their opponents generally score. And now opponent, this side up here, anything that says opponent is not his current opponent. It's all past opponents. So he has given, his opponents have scored 98.97 points against Derek Lewis when he has lost on average. Average salary, average value you get from that salary, differentials, ceiling, floor, pretty self-explanatory. This is a new one. I'm probably going to add some stats to this and reword a couple of them. Some weight class or some optimal lineup probabilities. So in this case, the heavyweight fight is, or this fight is at heavyweight. So this weight class probability, 56% for heavyweights, the best out of all weight classes. Next, number 14, that is the 14th fight on the card, and I give you that fight order probability of making the optimal lineup since the previously mentioned date. And then the third category is current salary and how often that salary wins the fight. In this case, the $8,800 salary wins their fight 73.17% of the time since January 1st. And then my overall odds to beat the current opponent, 51% for Izzy, 49% for Whitaker. And then a DraftKings rating, how I think they are going to, or how likely I believe based on some stats and probabilities that they are to make the optimal lineup. Both of these guys are pretty low. Actually, this number, oh no, this is Derek Lewis and Tuivasa. Okay, so even though it's a heavyweight fight, these guys don't score a ton of points, so that's why they are low. This number could change throughout the week, so I will keep it updated. DraftKings scoring by method. How do these guys score? You know, when they win by knockout, when they lose by knockout, how many do they give up? You know, so the top number is how many do they score in this manner, sub, decision, split decision. The bottom number, how many they give up by that method. DraftKings scoring per minute, how many, what percentage of their fights do they score over 90 DraftKings points, over 100, and over 110. So that kind of gives you an idea. You know, if you're up here, you're going to be more on the optimal lineup than guys with zeros here and here. So you just score a little bit better. And then the same thing, how many times they've given up 90, 100, and 110. The next block here is how do they score per per striking knockdown DraftKings points. So how many points do they score in knockdown when it comes to DraftKings points? And I just break that down over their career per minute. So Derek Lewis scores 0.37 knockdown points per minute. Not very many takedown points. And then the opponents are right underneath. So how many points their opponents score on them per minute, depending on the category. I mean, look at Bam Bam Tuivasa, 0.92 knockdown points per minute, first overall on the card. So all these, you know, stats also have the rankings for the fighters on the card. And then how these, you know, break down. Derek Lewis, 57% of his DraftKings points are scored by striking. You know, 20% by knockdown, 11% by control time, reversals. So pretty much every way you can score. I have it broken down by percentage. You know, obviously both of these guys are heavy strikers. Yeah, so you know, sometimes it just goes. It can be a good metric to show you what kind of style a fighter usually employs as well. If you're seeing no takedown points, I mean, over their career and they have 10 fights, you're probably not going to see a ton of takedowns from them. And then some standard deviation. This helps me calculate my ceilings and floors. You want this number to be as low as possible. For instance, when Derek Lewis loses, he's generally within about 6 points of his average number. That you don't really have to pay too much attention to. I just use that to kind of calculate my ceilings and floors. Average DraftKings points per type and win, and then average opponents per type and loss. So how many striking points does Derek Lewis score when he wins a fight? 18.69. How many striking points does his opponent score when he loses? 15.9. And then they are ranked accordingly, including grappling points and how many bonus points they score and give up. Relevant fight stats. I mentioned this in every video. These stats right here, this rank, is not gospel. Please do not think that these are exact numbers. These are more for when I'm talking through my game theory video and I can just kind of reference them and kind of get a general idea. Sometimes these are wildly inaccurate, just these numbers in the gray line. Everything else is completely accurate. But yeah, so some relevant stats. SS is significant strikes. TDL is takedowns landed. Takedowns, significant strikes landed, etc. Grappling time fought inside the distance. Everything here is pretty self-explanatory. Strength of schedule. I have the UFC records right here, and it's just based on the last 5 pro fights. But the strength of schedule does go outside the UFC. If you only have a couple of UFC fights, I do go all the way back to 5 fights total, no matter where you fought. So I compile these just like the BCS for football. Basically, it's Fighter A's last 5 opponents and how they've done against their last 5 opponents. All the records smushed together, and I come up with these numbers. Let's see, 100 is the max. So you know, the higher the better. 70 to 75 is decent. So anything above that is really good. Anything below is a bit less than average. As you can see, Derek Lewis with a damn good strength of schedule here. And then Tai Tuivasa, decent, but not quite where you want it. You know, sub 70 in one of these categories. So that's kind of how that breaks down. Fight history and stats just for the last 5 fights. Some very basic differentials here. I should add a couple more things. Maybe I'll do that in the future. But some very basic differentials here. The Swoop Index, the Power Index, and then that Chindex as well. And then the last 5 fights, how they break down their salaries, their how many points they scored, what their value was, their raw DraftKings points per minute. That is RDKP, raw DraftKings points per minute. As I said, I'm going to change that to pace, probably. Just a bit easier to say. Wins, losses, and then I also did add the odds in here, the historic odds, in case you would want to know that. So, for instance, Derek Lewis has been an underdog in 3 fights in a row. And then lastly, my upcoming fight projections. If you use Fantasy Cruncher, I have the Fantasy Cruncher projection that you can plug into that thing, which is just based on all my personal projections. And then I have those listed here. Normally on my game theory video, these 4 and 5 round numbers are blacked out until I get to the 5 round fights. But in this case, the conditional formatting is off. So unfortunately, for every single fight, you're going to see 4th and 5th round projections. Obviously, you know, ignore those unless it's a 5-round fight. So that is pretty much going to do it, guys. Pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions at all, please leave it in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. Send me a DM. I will be more than happy to explain anything. There's no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to this, especially because I'm a crazy person. So it makes total sense to me. I do not expect it to make sense to everyone. So please hit me up with any questions. And again, if you are here from Patreon, I want to give you one more huge thank you for signing up. I'm going to bring you the highest quality stats that I can find. I'm always going to be adding stuff if I can. Like I said, this will be released for just Patreon members either late Sundays or early Monday mornings on fight week. Otherwise, the only place to see these stats here is on my game theory video, which comes out on Tuesday afternoons, and I'm scrolling all over the place. It's kind of blurry, not too bad. I have a really good camera, but still, it's harder to see occasionally. So here you have full access, full 1080p minimum, and you can scroll however you want, highlight stuff, etc. So guys, use this to get those takedowns this year. I really hope, I want to see you posting them. Post all the winners in Discord. And if you're not here on Patreon, I strongly suggest, just a suggestion, go over to my website on Patreon, patreon.com/MonkMMATics, and check it out. Give it a shot. So only a few bucks a month, and you're getting, in my opinion, a ton of value. Lots of stats that you will not find anywhere else. In fact, I might be the only person that has all of these salary histories readily available. So again, thank you so much for watching this. I hope I broke it down for you. If you have any questions, hit me up. And as usual, guys, I want all of you to enjoy the fights. So enjoy.